WandaVision is bad. Season 1, Episode 7, there's absolutely no question that Disney is padding these episodes in order to stretch the series. I'm not exaggerating at all when I say that 50% of this episode could have been cut out and it wouldn't have changed anything. It was just unnecessary, useless filler to make the episode reach the time limit. On top of that, the show is plunging headlong into woke stupidity. It is painfully obvious that Disney and Marvel are treating certain characters that check off enough of the diversity boxes as being good, and characters that don't check off those boxes as being bad. And this is not some sort of hidden mystery or secret theory that I was able to figure out, because Disney and Marvel, the people that are in charge of all this stuff, have said this publicly. They have explicitly said that Phase 4, which is what we're currently in, is going to be focused on this woke garbage, and this is the message that they want to push. And sure, it's not as bad as what you'll see in Batwoman, but I don't know why people still refuse to accept that it's there when Disney has admitted it themselves. Getting into the episode, the show spends the first 5 minutes only explaining that Wanda is sad and that there are also occasional glitches in reality. It's a huge waste of time. Outside the town, S.W.O.R.D. has set up another base. It's a little bit further from the barrier, so if it expands, they'll have more time to escape. It's also revealed that the broadcast for the fake show has stopped, and that means that S.W.O.R.D. has no idea what's happening inside the town. Vision wakes up to find out that he is once again inside the energy field, and the old S.W.O.R.D. base has been turned into a circus. A man working for the circus believes that Vision is one of the new clowns because of the way he looks, and tells him to get ready for his act. The man then introduces Vision to Clown Girl. This is the one with the PhD, not to be confused with the more talented clowns that are in the rest of the circus.
Is that like a personal attack or something?
And she's now been trapped inside the field as well. But this time, she's an escape artist, and even though she has been chained to the vehicle, in the last episode, she's able to easily escape from them because that's just what her talent is for whatever reason. Vision follows her around, making weird suggestions about how they saw each other the night before, and that they locked eyes and had some kind of a connection. And of course, Clown Girl assumes that Vision is just trying to hit on her because she's now under the control of Wanda, so she doesn't actually recognize Vision for who he is. The way the scenario is set up, I'm assuming it's an attempt to be funny, but it's just annoying. Vision knows that she's under the control of Wanda while she's inside the town. He knows that all the people that are inside the town are under the control, yet he has the power to break them free. There's absolutely no reason for him to try to talk to her while she is still under Wanda's control. The entire time I kept thinking, why is he wasting time when he can just use his powers to free her and then talk to the person that he actually needs to talk to?
All of this is disgusting and terrible.
Moving over to the house, we then get almost 3 full minutes of absolutely nothing from Wanda and the twins. They ask her a question and she spends the next several minutes rambling about nothing, which ultimately results in her giving the answer that she just doesn't know. Like I said, there is no question in my mind that Disney is padding these episodes. We're now about 10 minutes into this episode, and nothing has happened. Agnes comes over and, seeing Wanda in a disheveled condition, offers to watch over the twins for the rest of the day so that Wanda can spend some time to herself. After they leave the house, the reality glitches begin happening a little more rapidly, but Wanda is able to revert everything back to how it should look. Moving over to Rambo and Jimmy, they are still driving for some unknown reason. Remember, these two left in the middle of the night, so they have been driving for maybe 5, 6, 7 hours at least, because now it's early morning, and yet they're still within just a couple miles of the town of Westview, and yeah, they're on a different part of the barrier, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't take 6 hours to drive around a small town. It's ridiculous that they would still be driving in the early morning.
This doesn't make any sense.
But don't worry, it gets worse. Jimmy then receives an email from Clown Girl, who is able to finally break through the last firewall at the S.W.O.R.D. base camp. Of course, none of this makes any sense with the show's timeline. Last night, Clown Girl was still trying to get through that firewall when Vision forced his way out of the barrier, and this caused Clown Girl to get pulled into the town when the barrier expanded. Let's assume for a second that she was able to gain access and then send that information off before she got pulled into the town when the barrier expanded. That email would have had to have been sent at sometime around 11 p.m. the previous night. We are now into the next morning. Maybe it's 9 a.m., 10 a.m., somewhere in that range. Why is Jimmy just now receiving and reading that email? Are they still using dial-up? Why would it take so long for that information to get sent? And it doesn't make sense that Jimmy would just now be checking his phone either, because this was extremely important information that both he and Rambo have been waiting for, and he would have been checking repeatedly to see if he had gotten it. It makes absolutely no sense for her to have sent it the previous night for Jimmy only to just now get it the following morning. It's dumb. As incredibly stupid as that is, don't worry, it gets worse, because as it turns out, the information reveals that the director is a bad guy. Wow. Who would have thought that in the woke-emphasized MCU, that the only white guy in the entire SWORD organization would turn out to be evil? I am so surprised.
So it is not a shocker at all, of course.
I'd also like to point out that in my last video, I correctly predicted that the white guy would end up being evil, but, you know, this isn't some genius Sherlock Holmes level deductions kind of stuff I was able to make. It was painfully obvious because the writers on this show are about as subtle as a jackhammer.
I barely have a reason to care, and even I noticed.
Jimmy and Rambo arrive at the location where they meet up with her friend, who has brought an extremely high-tech SWORD vehicle that Rambo is going to try to use in order to get inside the barrier. Of course, this is dumb, because Rambo is just a low-level agent who just returned from the snap. She doesn't have the rank or the authority to authorize anything like this. And even the major in charge of this vehicle and the squad attached to it would have been required to get permission from the director in order to bring it to the barrier, since the director has taken personal command of the entire operation surrounding the town and the barrier. So not only is Rambo ignoring orders from higher-ups, we're supposed to believe that this Air Force major is also willfully ignoring orders, but hey, because they're very diverse and the director is white, it must be okay, I guess, or something. Good job, Disney. Subtle as a jackhammer. Back with Vision and the Clown Girl, he spends another several minutes trying to explain things to her, knowing full well that she's under the control of Wanda and won't understand. But finally, Vision buys a clue and uses his powers to free the Clown Girl, where she immediately recognizes what's going on, and they decide that they need to leave to go find Wanda. Unfortunately, the guy from earlier tells Vision that since he's the new clown, he needs to get on stage because it's his turn, but Vision says he needs to leave, and the man tries to grab Clown Girl by the arm. Clown Girl then gives the most ridiculous, pathetic excuse for a punch I have ever seen, and the man falls to the ground.
That's pitiful. I mean, it's absolutely pitiful.
In previous videos, I pointed out that movies and shows like to pretend that women are just as strong as men physically, and even a 5'2" woman can somehow knock out a man that's 6'4", 250 pounds. But this show takes it to a new level of stupidity. Look at how fucking ridiculous this is. Please take note that this man is wearing the costume of a circus actor known as a strongman, and this guy would be responsible for showing off feats of strength during his act. This is something that the woke weirdos don't like. They always try to fight against toxic masculinity and the patriarchy. This guy is literally a strong man who gets knocked to the ground by a super smart doctor woman. The writing on this show is as subtle as a jackhammer.
What can I say except...
Rambo's getting suited up to drive the special vehicle into the field. We've seen previously that the field has different levels of resistance. You can't just go into it. It is kind of a physical barrier in some regard. The characters on the show know about this, and they even mention it. But for some reason, the super genius Rambo decides to try to drive into the field at maximum speed. Because she's a fucking idiot.
How dumb are you?
Wouldn't it make so much more sense to go into the barrier slowly to see what kind of resistance there is, and then just apply more pressure to the gas to speed up in order to force your way through? Why would you try to deliberately destroy the front end of your vehicle? That is so dumb. It is hilarious that the show keeps trying to insist that this character is the best and the brightest, yet continues to make unbelievably stupid decisions again and again and again. And just as expected, the vehicle slams into the barrier like it's a brick wall. The vehicle is then able to only partially go into the field, and as a result, it begins to change from the reality warping powers. Rambo jumps out in the nick of time so that she isn't affected by the barrier, but then she decides to take off her helmet and run into the barrier anyway. What was even the purpose of the vehicle? What was the purpose of jumping out if you're just gonna run into the barrier anyways? And why would you remove your helmet before running into the field? This character is so stupid. As she enters the field, we get a cringe fest that rivals Captain Marvel, and she's just able to kind of walk through it. And now apparently she has superpowers when she is on the other side. Also, she is now able to completely resist all the effects of Wanda somehow, and the reality warping just doesn't do anything to her. Meanwhile, Vision and Clown Girl are trying to get back to the center of town, but a string of odd situations keep delaying them. We get more idiotic fourth wall breaks, and it continually repeats until Vision finally realizes that he can just fly, and he goes back to the center of the town. We get almost nothing of value from any of these scenes, but it does manage to waste 3 to 4 minutes of the episode, which I guess is what they were kind of going for anyways. Rambo makes it to Wanda's house where she tries to explain the situation, but Wanda doesn't want to listen, and there's a small confrontation. We then get to see that Rambo is now more powerful than Wanda. Just by walking through the barrier, somehow she's now more powerful than Wanda, because of course. Sorry, Wanda, you just don't have enough of those diversity checkboxes. You need to get in line.
Why are you white?
Rambo then goes on giving a lecture to Wanda, and then she ends it by saying one of the dumbest things possible, and she talks about her truth. In case you don't know, this is a fairly common thing with the woke weirdos. Quite often, their opinion on something doesn't match up with reality, so rather than referencing facts or the truth, they use the idiotic phrase, my truth. The funny thing is that the way she's using it in this scene doesn't even make sense. She's talking about losing her mother, but rather than just speaking like a normal person, the writers felt the need to inject this mind-numbingly stupid phrase just to score some woke points or something? I don't know, and then the whole room clapped or something.
This is the worst.
Then Agnes shows up and is able to take Wanda out of the situation. They go back to Agnes's house where Wanda is looking for her twins, and she goes into the basement and discovers all kinds of magical artifacts down there. It is then revealed that Agnes is actually named Agatha, and she's a witch, who then claims to be responsible for all the bad things that have been happening in the show, including killing Sparky. Anyone that's familiar with the comics was already aware that Agnes was almost certainly going to end up being Agatha Harkness. However, the show seems to be changing the character for some reason. In the comics, Agatha is not a villain. While she does have limited involvement doing heroic stuff, she has been shown to be a friend of the Fantastic Four and other heroes in Marvel. So I'm not really sure why they're making these changes. In the next episode, we're going to learn more about Agatha, but I'll save that for the next video. In the meantime, this episode was largely a waste of time, and I mean that quite literally, because more than half of the episode was just filler and it was stupid, and they could have cut it out. But thankfully, that's the end of episode 7.